This is a Hafco BS4A metal bandsaw. It's a neat little machine capable of cutting metal of all shapes and sizes, or at least that's what they say. So let's set this up and put it to the test. Breaking open the box, we find all the parts we'll need for assembling the stand. The stand is made of sheet steel that gets folded out and bolted together along with the shelf that goes underneath. It can be a little tricky to line everything up, and it kind of feels like you're trying to bolt together a wet noodle at some points while it's moving around, but it can be done. The corners get reinforced with some brackets, and the wheelbase bolts also go through the sheet steel and into these brackets at the back. The stand is assembled and we can lift the actual bandsaw on top. It can take a bit of wriggling around and it's heaps easier with a second person. I'll then use the 6 bolts to fasten it down. Now I can get the rest of the machine ready by removing these screws and using them to install the pulley cover, followed by actually attaching the pulleys onto the machine and then the belt. There is also a bolt at the back for tightening up the pulley also. I'll then attach the start and stop buttons to the base along with screwing on the earth connection. That's the main base assembled and we can test it out. It runs fine, but the automatic stop isn't engaging, so I'll adjust that and it's all fully functional. Since this is all assembled now, we can take a look around the machine. This is the vise and it can be rotated to a 45-degree angle, but I like to keep it at 90 as it's quite hard to adjust it perfectly. The vise doesn't do a great job of holding material either, as square stock can be pulled out and it won't even grip on to round stock. Lifting up the motor cover, it has 3 different speed settings, but for all these tests I'll be sticking to 29. I was reading up about these machines and they said to change out the stock blade as it's absolute garbage, and after I did a few test cuts I had to agree. I ordered a second blade when I bought this machine, so I went about replacing the blade. The instructions for this machine are absolutely horrible and don't explain anything very well at all. While I did manage to change over the blade, it did fall off a couple of times and I had to do some googling to set it up right. With a new blade in, I can do some test cuts. I'll first cut some 20mm square aluminium down to size, and this should be pretty easy for it. I'm using a 14 TPI blade, and while it's probably not the proper blade, it's the only one I have at the time. It didn't struggle with cutting it at all though, and got through it in 55 seconds. The cut wasn't too out of square either, but I did need to do some adjustments, which you can do by using these bolts here. While it's still not perfect, it's definitely a lot better than what it was. I'll then cut some 25mm thick mild steel, and this one will be a bit of a challenge for it. I'm going to cut lengthwise by chopping this down as I'll be using it for a future project. It didn't really struggle too much with it, but the main body did get caught up on the piece and I had to flip it around. All up, this took about 20 minutes to cut. If I had the proper blade for this cut it would have been a lot faster, but I reckon it's still faster than what I could do with the hacksaw. The cut isn't too out of square either, but I will need to do some adjustments. Now with that piece cut, I can do a side by side of cutting aluminium versus steel. These are both 25 by 25mm bars. The steel bar is getting oil as a cutting oil, and the aluminium is getting WD-40, as I've heard that's pretty good for aluminium. I'm still using the same 14 TPI blade, and at no surprise the aluminium was first done at 1 minute and 14 seconds. The steel only took just a little longer at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. The bandsaw can also be used in the upright position as a vertical bandsaw. Just take off this little guard and replace it with its base. Then lock it into the vertical position and you're good to go. It does a decent job, but just keep your hands well clear from that blade. I've been using this on off for about a month now, and you would have seen it in some other projects such as the welding table assembly and building a welding cart. It's not a bad little machine, and I've only had a couple of little problems with it so far, like while I was cutting pieces for the welding cart, it just stopped cutting. Turns out that was an easy fix though, as one of the pulley bolts just needed tightening. I've seen plenty of other videos online about upgrading these machines, and that's definitely something I'll look at doing in the future. So let me know what you think of it. Do you think it's worth the $600 price tag, or do you think that's just a little steep? Let me know down in the comments. But that's all I got for you on this one. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.